budget committee meetings such as this one will be available online and linked via ramseycounty.us/board meetings. Members of the public and the media will be able to watch the public meeting live online. Okay, then we will move on. I will, the beginning comments that I give, will provide again this afternoon when we start our meeting, because it is important that the public understand what we are doing and what each of these committee meetings are about. And because not everyone is going to be on the same call, the board members are hearing this several times over during the budget hearing meetings. On August 24th, we heard from County Manager O'Connor, who provided an overview of the proposed 2022-2023 proposed budget. The proposed budget calls for a levy increase of 1.55% in 2022 and 4.54% in 2023. Meetings with service teams on their proposed biennial budgets began last week when we heard from the Health and Wellness Service team. Videos of those hearings will be posted to our budget website for those not able to tune in last week. Today, we'll hear from Economic Growth and Community Investment and the Strategic Team. Tomorrow, Tuesday, September 14th, we'll hear from the Information and Public Records and Safety and Justice. The full schedule of this year's budget hearings is available online at www.ramseycounty.us/budget. The Deputy County Manager of each service team will provide an overview of the service team, key highlights in the budget, and an update on their strategic priorities. The Controller will follow with major changes in the proposed budget, and each department director will present more details on their department's budgets, priorities, and the proposed budget. After each presentation, I will open up the floor for any questions and discussion by the County Board. Following the budget presentations on Tuesday, September 14th at 4:30, we will have the first public hearing on the 2022-2023 budget. Given the current state of the COVID-19 pandemic and the need to prioritize the safety of commissioners, staff, and community, we have adjusted the public comment to be virtual only, as it is not practical or prudent to have an in-person meeting because of the Delta variant at this time. The Zoom link to join the public hearing to comment is available on ramseycounty.us/budget. You can click on the link for 2022-2023 budget information, then scroll down and click on the September 14th public hearing for information on how to join. And at the end of this meeting this morning, I will repeat that information as well as what I'm about to share now. To share comments ahead of the public hearing or to sign up to speak at the public hearing on the 14th, because we will take people in the order they have signed up, you can contact the Chief Clerk's office via email. That email address is chiefclerk@ramseycounty.us, pretty straightforward. Written letters can be sent to Chief Clerk, 15 West Kellogg Boulevard, 250 Courthouse, St. Paul, Minnesota, 55102. And finally, via phone, 651-266-8014. The email and the phone number you can also use to sign up in addition to providing public comment. All comments that are received via email or other means will be included officially or formally in the public comments for this year's budget deliberations. On Tuesday, September 21st, the board will set the 2022 maximum property tax levy. The second public hearing will be held on Monday, November 29th. More details on location will be available closer to that date. On Tuesday, December 14th, the Budget Committee will discuss changes to the budget, if any, that are requested by County Board members. And finally, on Tuesday, December 21st, the County Board will give final approval to the 2022-2023 budget including any changes approved by the committee, and set the final 2022 property tax levy. And with that, I would like to open this up. And as I stated earlier, well, wait a minute. I did say that I was going to repeat the email and the phone number, especially for signing up for the public hearing. So I will do that at this time. Again, Chief Clerk, all one word, at ramseycounty.us. Chief Clerk at ramseycounty.us. And the phone number, 651-266-8014. The first budget this morning, the first team is economic, actually it is the whole morning, economic growth and community investment service team. We will have the Deputy County Manager, Joanna Berg, for this vibrant service team that we have, provide a budget overview, and then we will move into, as I said, the controller and the different areas that are included in ECGI, or EG, yes, that's right. Anyhow, so Joanna Berg will give the budget overview. This can be found in your budget book on pages 304 to 318. And I will now turn it over to Deputy County Manager Berg.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm delighted to be here this morning to provide an overview of EGCI's 2022-2023 proposed biennial budget. I want to start by acknowledging the work of the EGCI Budget Action Team led by Controller George Hardgrove, who's joining me at the table this morning. In addition to George, I want to highlight the other members of the EGCI Budget Team who did the heavy lifting in developing this budget. Mary Larson, Chris Longhenry, Tony Lutgen, Holly Pratt, Jordan Prius, Dan Winnick, and Jua Yang, as well as Brian Isaacson and Cassie Fitzgerald, who oversaw our performance measures and were instrumental in pulling the final package together. My thanks to these leaders, as well as to our CFO, Alex Kutza, Deputy Finance Director, Susan Earle, and EGCI's assigned budget analysts, Steve Kuhn and Bianca Fuccini. Before I outline the highlights of this proposed budget, I want to take a moment to extend profound thanks to others on our EGCI team. We are all aware that there is significant work underway around flexible work policy and planning for county staff to hopefully soon return to an office setting. But today I want to highlight those staff across EGCI within housing stability, the library, parks and recreation, property management, and public works, whose jobs have required them to be working at county sites every day through this pandemic. Let's take a moment together, please, to collectively recognize and thank these staff for their on-site service to residents and to their colleagues through this extremely challenging last year. Thank you. The budget development process, of course, is time to reflect both on where we have been and where we are going. The county manager has highlighted that our countywide foundational priorities remain unchanged from the 2020-2021 budget. At the service team level, as our department heads walk through their presentations today, they will highlight connections from EGCI's 2020-2021 biennial budget priorities to this proposed budget. And you will hear how we have progressed, building on the foundation of those priority areas, which were building a 21st century park system, eliminating youth library fines, and establishing economic development-based funding. This proposed budget also for the first time includes a housing stability department, which had its genesis in the Health and Wellness Service Team 2021 biennial budget. Within this 2022-2023 proposed budget, there are clear ties between our proposed investments and that earlier foundational work that advanced county goals of well-being, prosperity, and opportunity. These are activating the HRA levy, increasing investment in housing stability, and creating a fund to incent departments to vacate space pending full implementation of the Residents First facility plan. Each of these proposed investments reflects the advancement of strategic work already underway and that will require years of sustained focus and investment. With respect to our strategic facilities work, in the current biennium, we have set a Residents First strategic facility direction and implemented countywide space and design standards for the first time. The county manager's office remodel showcases what future space and design will look like across other county buildings. We need to do this near-term flexible work policy and the planning to return to an office setting next, regardless of the broader strategic residents first facilities work. And that planning will provide us with opportunities to further reduce our footprint and modernize as we move forward. This will be a learning experience over the next biennium. Property Management Director Jean Kruger will speak further about the integration of this work in her presentation this morning. In addition to the EGCI investment priorities I cited, we are newly implementing a finance and accounting division within the EGCI office. This reallocation of existing positions enables us to move from our current department-based structure to a matrix service team structure, increasing efficiency and gaining parity in service and support to our departments. This evolution models our commitment to continue to mature our organization to realize the promise of the service team model and to advance our accountability goal. And it's particularly gratifying for me personally to see this organization grow and mature, as when I came to EGCI in 2017, I was the EGCI office, just me. So we are growing and expanding in a very positive way. As I said last year, the global pandemic has served to highlight both our capacity and the limits of our capacity. I am in awe of the volume of high priority work our team was able to advance this year. And you will hear also today of work that is behind where we had planned as pandemic-related needs necessarily took priority. One of the areas of strong progress I want to highlight is our Purchasing and Contracting Action Team, co-led by Workforce Solutions Director Ling Becker and Parks and Recreation Facility and Sustainability Director Ryan Reese, where EGCI is leading the county in developing and implementing innovative strategies such as CERT Connect to further diversify our spend portfolio. This board connects with our EGCI team on a regular basis, and I know in what high regard you hold each of these leaders. I want to speak for a moment about the collective. This is a great team, a collection of scary smart, committed, transformational leaders who collaborate, support one another, lead with agility and empathy, and stay laser focused on residents and results. Every day, we put energy and expertise into charting new courses forward with a broad range of regional partners for the benefit of our community. It's truly a privilege to be part of this team. I'll close by noting this was not an easy budget to develop, and it reflects necessary and difficult prioritization. But it is a budget full of promise, and I am confident you'll hear that shine through this morning and this afternoon. With that, I am happy to take any questions you have, Madam Chair, for me this morning before turning it over to our Controller, George Hardgrove.
Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I could use my hand raise function, but thanks for recognizing me. Thank you so much, Deputy County Manager. I am just also excited to hear the budget and am grateful for your introduction. I just want to ask if you could clarify a little bit. You mentioned the word matrix system, and I know what I think that is, but I was just wondering if you would just clarify when you said you're embarking on the matrix system. Could you just clarify so that I'm on the same page when you say that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner McGuire, yes. Historically, each department has had a finance and accounting function that has reported up directly to that department head. The transition that we are making is we are moving from that solid line relationship to having the lead accountants having a solid line relationship to our controller, George Hardgrove, and a dotted line relationship to the department heads. So that's the structure that we're going to be implementing. And Mr. Hardgrove is going to speak to that in more detail within his update.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding it correctly. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. And thank you, Deputy County Manager Berg. That was a great overview, and looking forward to now hearing from the EGCI Controller, George Hardgrove. And you're absolutely right, all of the leadership and pulling things together and how much has happened since 2017 is pretty amazing. The major changes can be found in your budget books on pages 29 to 31, and I will turn it over to Controller Hardgrove at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. It's good to see you again today. I have two parts to my presentation today, so I'll go over the major changes first in the overall budget.
George, can I stop you for just a moment? If we could, for the public and for us, if the camera could be on the person that is speaking in the chambers, that would be very helpful. And that's not something you have to do, George. There you go. Now
Am I on? Okay. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. No, thank you. I was trying to figure out what camera to look at.
You don't have to worry about it. It'll find you.
Okay. Good. Okay, but anyway, what I was saying is I have a two-part presentation today. The first one is on the major changes to the whole service team, and then the second part will be on our EGCI office and kind of what Deputy County Manager Berg had talked about and Commissioner McGuire had asked about. I can go into a little more detail on that, especially since it's new this year. So that being said, just to say a few words about the budget process, it was a very robust and complex process this year, to say the least, for EGCI. One of the most complex of my career, actually. We had a new department come in. We had a reorganization that Deputy Commissioner Berg had talked about, and then we also we had some budget reductions so we could fit into the framework for the county, and those were generally levy reductions in 2022 and 23. And as you'll notice as you go through the changes, you'll see a number of departments adjusted their vacancy factor, where we're expecting to have a few more open positions, and so I think you'll hear more about that from the directors later today as well too. So anyway, just to start with the major changes on page 29 here, I believe. The very first one, certainly first and foremost, is the new Housing Stability Department led by Director Lattimore. We worked on that all year. We basically did a transfer of levy and grant revenue from health and wellness into from various parts of health and wellness into EGCI to form a standalone department. We also supplemented that with county levy, $1 million we're proposing in the 22-23 budget, and then we did transfer in $500,000 this year too as well too. So to help fill in gaps. So you'll hear more about that from Director Lattimore certainly later on today. Like we mentioned before, we have a new service team-wide finance and accounting division in the EGCI office. I'll talk more about that in the second part of my presentation here this morning. As I mentioned before, too, we took some levy reductions. Most of it was in 2023. 22 was only about $99,000, but in 23 it was about $532,000. And we used a collaborative approach throughout the service team, and the community economic development took part of that, housing stability, public works, library, and parks as well. And again, you'll see that reflected in the vacancy factor. Moving on from the service team-wide changes, just to mention a couple things from Public Works. Public Works continues to transfer capital funding into their operating maintenance budget. I'm sure Director Schoenecker will talk more about that in a little while here. In addition to that, this isn't really a change, but we did want to mention our fleet budget. That's kind of a upcoming concern for us. I know Director Schoenecker had expressed a desire to increase the budget. For that one of the main reasons we're concerned about it is if you look at like benchmarks, like the amount of dollars per piece of equipment we budget, it's roughly half of what many of our peers here in the county do. And it's a fairly new department. Fleet just started about 5-6 years ago or so. So it's something we need to work on, and certainly our new enterprise asset management system, and fleet is the very first department that's going up there. So that's something we're keeping our eye on. Moving on to the library. The library, we did add some additional, we are proposing to add some additional levy to that mainly to make up for the loss of revenue from the adult fines, and certainly they eliminated the youth fines a couple of years back too. So that's, we're proposing to address that, as well as we are proposing to pay cash for the Maplewood remodeling project, which is about almost $3 million. So that kind of tightened things up a little bit with the library. Moving on to the Community and Economic Development Department. Certainly that's one of the major changes, and certainly, just like I mentioned before, we have the new Housing Stability Department. We're proposing to create an HRA property tax levy to raise about 11.1 million per year, at least in the first year or so. So that's funding 7 new FTEs and a huge increase in the county's affordable housing budget. So more to come there from Director Collins. The other thing I mentioned about community and economic development is we are, like I say, trying to collaborate more within the service team, and they're also the department. It's not a major change, but the department is going to work with Workforce Solutions and help work on their grants, so we can incorporate workforce into affordable housing as well too. Moving on from that, property management, as Director or Deputy County Manager Berg had mentioned before. We are proposing to create a $1.5 million fund to help with one-time funding to help departments reduce their space. It really funds a couple things. One would be to offset rent that the department would normally get if they move out of space, temporarily, and the other part of it is to help pay for design and remodeling to use our space more efficiently. So we're hoping that'll lead to a little smaller footprint for the county in the long term. Property management is also proposing a 63-cent per square foot rent increase for 2022. In addition to certainly property managers making some sacrifices as well too. They're going to cover some of their loss of rent, and especially in Metro Square going forward as well too. Parks, they have a few changes there. You can note on item 2. They have a new Battle Creek winter recreational area, so we added some money to the budget, both revenue and expense for that as well too, and they continue to cut expenses as well too. As you can see, there's been some reduction in our lifeguard services. And then finally, in Workforce Solutions, there's a couple changes there in the budget, compared to the last 2 years. One is this Next Gens program. It's a research program. It's ultimately sponsored by the federal government. So we increased the budget about $1.4 million in 22-23. That's something that Ramsey County is participating in. It's a 3-year program. And then otherwise, too, TANF or MFIP, the Temporary Aid for Needy Families program, we increased that by about $1.1 million mainly because when we set the original budget a couple years ago, it was low because that was prior to the pandemic, and the needs have increased. So a few changes there. And then, of course, housing stability, we talked about the new department. So with that, I'll pause for any questions before I get into the EGCI office. If anyone has any
I think one thing that would be helpful, George, is just a comment on the fact that, and maybe I'll just do it, comment on the fact that the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act funds that we recently allocated are not included in this because this money came in after the budget was done and the actions that we took. So that for people that are watching and wondering about that, I just wanted to, if you could elaborate on that just a little bit, because I think there may be other areas in this budget too that will be impacted by funds that have come in recently or that we have allocated recently.
Yes, excellent point, Chair Reinhardt. Yes, we've been allocating, I know, initially to Workforce Solutions, and then I believe there's a board action coming up for affordable housing as well, too, for 20 million or so. Yeah, but you're right, we didn't include that formally in the budget yet.
And that is to be expected because there are changes that happen as we go along, and we have built into our budget process the ability to incorporate that as funds become available.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner McGuire. Okay. Yes?
Sorry, this is Alex Kutza. I just wanted to respond quickly to understand the ARPA funding in the budget. That's an excellent question. Thank you for raising it. So we have, in this area, the board has approved $2.1 million for the Right Track Plus program within workforce and $27 million for affordable housing. We are treating that as grant funding or a project that's coming in, so it is separate from the budget and is being accounted for separately. So you don't see those in here, The only ARPA funds you see in the budget are the ones we talked about first, the $20 million. That's included in the budget. And I'm looking to Susan. There is a little bit of money in the IT. You'll hear about the IT rates when IPR comes forward that we use to offset that, but that is separate, not included in this budget, will be any of the ARPA initiatives that we take.
So there is some of the, so it's not CARES fund, that's CARES funds that have carried over, but it is ARPA funds that are actually included in the documentation that we have.
Madam Chair, I'm making sure I understand your question. The ARPA funds in this budget is the $20 million that's included as federal revenue overall in the entire budget. The 2.1 million
Okay.
and the 27 million for affordable housing are being treated as a grant and are separate from the budget.
Okay, thank you. That is very helpful. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great overview. Thank you so much. I just have a couple of questions in a couple of the areas, and perhaps the directors want to respond, but I'll just ask here. So in Public Works, can you just remind us the reason for the revenue loss in the county state aid highway fund? Is that's a state allocation, and is that because people were not driving as much, or can you just explain why there was a loss in the county state aid highway fund?
Yeah, sure. I could address that, Chair Reinhardt and Commissioner McGuire. Yes, you're correct. In the state aid highway fund, it is mainly funded by the gas tax, new car registration, things like that, sales tax on vehicles, and I think the main driver behind that has been the gas tax. Has gone down as people have worked from home more and not driven as much. I think we're seeing it get better. I think Director Schoenecker could talk a little bit more about that as well too. But it is causing. I think we have close to, if I remind myself here, about $5 million. We think over the last few years here has been kind of cut from Ramsey County's capital program, and so unfortunately we've had to move some of that to maintenance just to make sure we can maintain the roads.
Thank you for that. And Madam Chair, just one more question then. On the property management, this is the termination of the lease with deed with our Department of Economic Employment and Development. Is that our choice or their choice, or did they want to leave, or are we reassessing our building space there and wanting to make it more for Ramsey County usage? Because I see we're renovating it for internal use, but was that their decision or ours?
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, that is our decision. As you referenced, we are moving forward with the Metro Square building being one of the county back office building sites, and we elected not to continue that lease with the Department of Employment and Economic Development.
Thank you. That's what I was remembering. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to go back to the ARPA, how we're tracking that. And I fully support accounting for it as grant funding, as one-time funding, and that makes really good sense. My question is there a spot, through the open data portal or for residents for us to just track ARPA funds as it's allocated in one spot so interested parties or residents could track how we're allocating that as a separate kind of pot of money, one spot to do that? If we're not, I would suggest we should do that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, that's a great question, and yes, the answer is yes. We do have some tracking out there, and I know Communications is in the process of updating the RISE, but I keep saying the word budget. It's not budget. Web page. Thank you. The RISE web page that had reflected all of the CARES funding and will now reflect all of the ARPA funding. Not only are we working on that, but there are requirements in the ARPA bill that make sure that we are transparent and share all of that information with the public. So I'll be happy to send that link out to you.
Thank you.
And do you have the link link? I mean, can we say where it's at specifically for the public?
Madam Chair, I think communications, I'm just going to confirm, I think they're still working on getting the RISE page updated, but let me check,
Okay.
and later in the presentation, I'll make sure I clarify.
Okay, thank you very much. And I do think, again, when we talk about the federal funds that are coming in or anything that has come in to try to offset or to try to cover things for the public, is really, I mean, we talk about funds coming in as if it's in addition to, and the fact of the matter is it is additional funds coming in, but it's because of lost revenue and hardships really that the community is concerned about. So funds going into businesses, into housing, some of the rescue plan programs that are out there. So this is not just additional money coming in. It is money that's coming in because it is needed to fill the gaps of what didn't come in as a result of COVID. Okay, are there any other questions for Mr. Hardgrove at this point? Anything in the chambers?
No, Madam Chair, none here in the chambers.
Okay, and I should have pointed out that Vice Chair of the Budget Committee, Commissioner Trista Matas Castillo is in the chambers, as well as Chair of the Board, Tony Carter. Let's see, we will move on then to, I'm just trying to see where I'm at. Okay, so the Office of EGCI. George, I guess I don't get to let you go at this point yet. So you did the major changes, and now we'll move on to the Office of EGCI. That can be found in your budget books on pages 319 to 330, and I'll turn it back to George.
Okay, thank you, Chair Reinhardt and Commissioners. It's my pleasure to talk a little bit more about the EGCI office. I think as you heard from Deputy County Manager Berg, we are expanding and building out the service team this budget cycle. I'll talk mainly about the new Finance and Accounting Division, but before I start, I just wanted to mention we also have a long-term planning manager that transferred into the department too to also help on service team-wide planning projects and to help coordinate things among the departments. So as you can see in page 319 and especially to page 323, we started to talk about consolidating the finance and accounting for the whole service team. As Deputy County Manager Berg had mentioned, we have what I would call separate accounting areas in each department. One of the main reasons that we did this was to really try to equalize service between the 7 departments. There were some departments that had fairly robust accounting areas, full service, and there was other departments that really didn't have much of anything, and we were getting by with a collaboration between us and central finance, and so this allows us to equalize the service. It also allows us to just achieve more consistency in our policies, practices, and processes as well, too. If there's a good idea in one department, we can quickly replicate it in other departments, and certainly it's something we want to do countywide as well too. We certainly, the controllers get together with central finance quite often, and so it's not just within the service team, but many processes we work on a countywide basis as well too. And that, more than anything too, it allows us to move the staff to the high priority areas. I mean, the work really doesn't come in a linear fashion. I mean, one department may have some major needs, and then a couple months later another department will. So it allows us to move resources around, as well as create backups and opportunities for our staff to get involved in many more different EGCI businesses. If you look on page 321 in the text and on the org chart, as Commissioner McGuire asked about earlier, as far as the matrix organization, one of the key positions to make the matrix really go in this new division is the role of the accounting manager. We're proposing to have 3 accounting managers in the new division. And so what I really mean by the matrix is they have a dual reporting relationship. They report to the controller on a solid line, but also to their assigned departments on a dotted line as well too. So that's really, and then in addition to that, they also supervise the functional areas of accounting and finance in the service team. And a functional area are things like accounts payable, the people that pay the bills, accounts receivable, the people that keep track of the money coming in. And one of our strategies has been to, the reason why we do that is there's certain parts of the finance and accounting world that we feel need to be close to the business. That could be things like developing budgets, forecasts, helping with decisions, things like that. You really need to be involved in the business. So that's why we like to have the accounting managers, close to the businesses. It's our hope that they continue on the leadership teams for those departments. The professional staff often works on activities like that. But then in other areas like accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, things like that, it certainly helps to know the business, but we also want to take advantage of economies of scale and consistent processes and systems and things like that. And so the accounting managers manage that as well, too. So they're really the what I would call the core, the key of the matrix here. Going forward, some of the methodology we use to form the department, we really tried to take a fresh start, take a hard look at all the work that was coming in. We took a look at what positions should be doing the work, and then finally how many FTEs were required. And as I said, we had a few departments that really had no accounting resources and a couple others that had very limited. And so we are proposing to add four new professional accountants. One of them has already did start with some funding we got for the Housing Stability Office in 2021, but we had to ask for the FTE next year. So anyway, we used that to determine the number of FTEs. We also had to look very closely at gaps. We had to unwind a lot of positions. A lot of positions did both operational and finance work, so that certainly took quite a bit of time as well, too. Finally, just to say a few words about our kind of business systems and processes that we're working on. This also gives us a chance to, like I say, try to improve some of the processes here, and you can see that in some of the metrics in page 321 as well. Certainly, one of the very, very key metrics is customer satisfaction, and that includes not just the directors and the departments, but central finance, even in the community. It is important to our work that they're satisfied. This is quite a change for the county, so we really want to keep tabs on how we're doing and making sure we keep the good relationships and keep the good things of the system we had previously to this as well too. Another area, key area that I'd like to work on is the grants. We have 3 departments that are heavily dependent on grants, so we're continuing to work on systems and processes to improve it, and we're hoping to get some improvement in the metrics and the amount of time it takes as well to manage our grants. So we're actively working on that, as well as accounts payable and the procurement side too. We are actively working on trying to keep a tab on the invoices, do business electronically, collect the invoices, route them electronically for approval. Continue to try to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of our processes here that accounting and finance is involved in. And finally, I just wanted to mention too, is one of the key things about this new department too, is I really want to take advantage of interns. We have a couple things going here. We have a career pathways request into that program, so we're hoping we can get a couple interns. It's not really called out on the budget or anything like that, and in addition, we also participate in the county's finance fellowship program. Those are little people that are a little further along in their career and want to get into a professional work within the accounting and finance area. So we partner with central finance on that, but I just feel it's just crucial we have to reach out to areas we haven't reached out with before. We got to get people in the profession that haven't been in the profession before. So it's something it's very near and dear to me, and I want to we need to get more people in the profession. We're already having issues sometimes in filling positions and things like that, and that'll only I think only get a little worse over time. So that's one of the key areas we want to bring in, give people opportunity and show what they can do and all that too. So that's one of the things I'll work on quite a bit here as part of the new division here. And then finally, I'm happy to say and happy to report too that we're already taking advantage of moving resources around, even now, especially with this new Housing Stability Department up and running. We've already taken advantage of moving the work around a little bit. That's helped a lot, help us get by until we can get fully reorganized, which we're proposing to have pretty well done by the time the new year starts and the budget starts and all that. So with that is the EGCI office, and I tried to cover the major changes there. And you can see there's quite an addition of funds and FTEs into that department. Most of it, like I say, was transferred from other areas of EGCI. So at that point, I'm happy to stand for any questions.
I would like to, thank you, George. If we could look to page 321 again, I think it's important to note that because everything is so new here, we really don't have, our base is being set now or about to be set in 2022. And so it's kind of difficult as I'm looking at the estimate for 2022 and estimate for 2021. It's hard to have context there. Could you provide just a little bit more context as far as what, 50% are okay and 20.98 days? It's hard to know what that means. And then the next person is Commissioner McDonough.
Okay, thank you, Chair Reinhardt, the commissioners. For customer satisfaction, I mean, we have to measure that, and I tend to survey our own employees as well, too. No, I'd like to see that pretty high. I mean, I think in the as far as rating us good or better, it would be good if that was in the 80 to 90% range. Hopefully even closer to 90 would be good. Certainly other departments I've been involved in, that's usually what we shoot for, and things that are under that, if they're in the 50s or 60s, we usually try to work on that quite a bit. The percentage of division staff who are racially or ethnically diverse, we think it's about 15% now or so, roughly. At the time I put this together, we didn't really have, I don't think the workforce reports were quite available yet. We also are hiring a number of positions too, so I think we'll have some better numbers as we get towards the end of the year. And you can see we have a rough estimate of the time we spend on billing out our grants and reporting on them.
And I guess again, I think under customer satisfaction, I think what I'm hearing you say is probably to be determined, because I think 50% are okay I still don't know exactly what that means, because 50% being satisfied certainly isn't okay. But
no, I agree. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
That's okay.
We should have said NA there. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah.
And the 20.98 days, again, I don't know what that means. Is there some way to, I guess, as this comes back to us, because this is a work in progress, this is new measurements, new things that are coming in, some of it not even in place yet. And so I give you credit for trying to put together the performance standards and the measurements. But as we go forward, we're gonna need to have some context for it. Is 20.98 days, for example, is that good? I really have no way of knowing.
Chair Reinhardt, commissioners, no, it's not what we're looking for. Okay. We do need to work considerably on that. That's an estimate we gave out of our workforce solutions department, and so we're hoping to make some reporting and system changes over the long run to deal with that. But no, it's not in the area that will work in the long term or anything like that. It's something we do need to work on actively. So no, that's why I wanted to highlight that, because that is one of the things I'd like to try to improve, and so I've been working on that, since I've been here.
Okay. Well, and I think that so this one is kind of a work in progress because of the fact that everything is pretty new, and going to the matrix system for finance and all of these things. There's a lot happening here in the EGCI office, and so if people are looking at this particular budget page, I just want them to understand that we're moving as quickly as we can, and really trying to, well, as I said at the very beginning, this is one of the most vibrant and active service teams that we have because of everything that needs to be done so quickly. Commissioner McDonough, and then Commissioner McGuire.
Thanks, Madam Chair. George, you talked about in your matrix here trying to coordinate and get a better handle on managing and accounting for grants. And in the health and wellness budget proposal, there was actually 2 FTEs that were brought, if I recall, it was 2 FTEs brought on to really take a look at this and really step up. And I think about this service team here in HUD and DOT and Department of Labor and possibly even some EPA stuff. How are we, and to be transparent, I'm not always a fan of grants because it raises expectations in communities and the money goes away. And sometimes chasing the money doesn't align with the vision, right? So we want to make sure we're doing our mission work here. But there is a lot of money, especially in HUD, but in some of these other areas. How are we coordinating and making sure that we're looking at every possibility as NOPAs come out and maybe stepping up like health and wellness is here in a much more coordinated way in this service team? And that might be partly for you, partly for Joanna.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Reinhardt, Commissioner McDonough. Yeah, no. It's an excellent question. I can address some of that. We actually have partnered with Health and Wellness. There's been a group of us, of certainly the controllers, a few of the directors and accounting managers, and we actually held a Kaizen, which is like a rapid. It comes from Japan. It's a managerial method to come up with rapid solutions to our processes, and so we did a combined Kaizen with the Health and Wellness team, and Central Finance was involved in that as well too. And so we do have a new process on the grants, and we're hoping that can lead to, like I say, some of the improvements that I talked about a few minutes ago on our grant management processes. And so yes, Health and Wellness, I think, was adding what we call grant administrator positions. That was one of the key positions that came out of the Kaizen. We actually have one in Workforce Solutions right now in EGCI. It's filled right now by a contractor, so the person that's in it now won't be doing it long term. But it's something we want to implement in EGCI as well too. We didn't formally ask for it in the budget because we're piloting it right now in one department. But we've talked about, do we add another position possibly in the longer term, for the rest of the service team. But we tend to follow the same process as Health and Wellness because we teamed up with them on what they had worked on.
Great. And maybe just a final comment, because as we move to the service team model here to really integrate and coordinate within budgets and move away from these silos of excellence, which was absolutely great. But then also, the responsibility of the deputy county managers was to ensure we're doing horizontal integration between the service teams, and we're integrating as much as possible. So I'm glad to hear that, working with them. And I don't know what the capacity is for the 2 grant people in health and wellness, but as we're moving forward, hopefully there's enough flexibility here that we could ensure that we're not missing any opportunities moving forward on the federal dollars that are being made available.
Thank you. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad, and thank you, Director Hargrove. I am glad, Madam Chair, that you brought up the performance measures chart on page 321, because I know it's out there now, and this is how accounting maybe needs to keep track. But it does look a bit deceiving that in 2018 and 19, I don't want people to think that we didn't care about customer satisfaction. We certainly cared about it. We just weren't keeping track about it. So is there a way that you can have something besides none, rather than just data not kept or something, and then to be determined in the second one, meaning we go back, and can we go back and get those numbers back there, and if in the percentage of division staff who are racially and ethnically diverse. So that's why that's to be determined and not none, because I'm glad it doesn't say none there. So that means we're still maybe gathering those numbers. But I feel like none is maybe a little asterisk that says this just means that data wasn't kept being recorded. But I think it is not fair or deceiving, to think that we didn't care about it. We just didn't record it. But I'm just expressing my concern about a chart like this and what it reflects. I'm glad we're keeping track of it now, and we want to. And you're right, 50% are okay. It doesn't seem to be enough for me. And I do appreciate Commissioner Reinhardt's questions about what's the context of 20.98 days. I don't really know what that is either. So anyway, I'm just hopeful that we can maybe do different charts that actually reflect a little better in the future.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, if I could speak just generally to this. Certainly, Commissioner, as we had our decentralized approach to finance and accounting, individual department heads may well have been tracking their own department's satisfaction with their own department accounting organization. What this chart reflects is, as we bring this together for the first time, we have never before gathered aggregate data across the service team, and we are now doing that moving forward. So I can't say that we never gathered any of this data, but I also can't say that every department gathered it either. We are now taking a look at this at an aggregate basis across the service team.
And I appreciate that, Deputy County Manager Berg. I really do. And just maybe we have, like I said, an asterisk that says data not recorded or something, not none, or just say no data recorded. I mean, it just feels like a better description of what it was. But okay, thank you.
And I think actually, from what I'm hearing, is that the actuality of this is the data was not recorded on an office-wide basis.
Right.
And so I think, yeah, I think the chart on the performance measures on page 321, we can see what they plan to do. But the reality is, even when you look at number 2, the percentage of division staff who are racially and ethnically diverse, putting numbers in there from previous years with so many changes. I mean, if you went back to 2017, it would be 0 because there was only one person. And so the growth in this area and adding divisions or offices within it, I think has made it more difficult. So I think, hindsight's always 2020. So I think probably this particular chart, it would have been better to just state, these are the things that we will be recording after or on for the entire office rather than the individual parts of the office. Because that's what I'm hearing Deputy County Manager Berg say. These things were recorded, but they weren't recorded on the office-wide or the service team base. And I think that's what this is meant to reflect. Kind of. I can see the. I'm trying to figure out, because I think that it's confusing because it seems like it's for the whole office, but we didn't have data collected for the whole office at the time.
Madam Chair, that's exactly right, and perhaps in retrospect not applicable versus none would have been a little more clear. And we'll certainly take that back to our performance measures folks. There may be other areas in this budget where you see that similarly, but we are today now bringing this, as we bring this organization together for the first time, what you are seeing here is a commitment to performance measures as we move forward.
And I think that's one of the really cool things about EGCI is the nimbleness, the flexibility, and in many ways the aggressiveness in trying to make sure that everything is working like a well-oiled machine, which kind of gets to the idea of the matrix, and trying to make sure that there's communication that goes throughout that service team. Because really what it is trying to, and doing a very good job of maximizing the impact, which is exactly what we need. especially with the new areas within it. So this one is different than some of our more seasoned or mature areas in the service team, because this one is so new. Not that, and some of the work is new as well, but it was really concentrated here so that we could have the maximum impact. So yes, as I said, hindsight's always 2020, but I think we know what you're trying to say, but I think the chart here didn't quite get that message across. So we'll work on that as we go forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any further comments or questions? Commissioner McGuire, did you have your questions answered then? Okay. Anything in the chambers? Commissioner Montes Castillo, anything?
No, Madam Chair, we're good here.
Okay, then I think that we are ready to go on, unless I see some hands raised quickly. And I see Director Schoenecker is now on the screen here. So what we are moving to is Public Works and the Regional Rail Authority. These two areas can be found on pages 361 to 382. And then I believe the Regional Rail is on pages 603 to 605. And I will turn it over to County Engineer, Public Works Director, Ted Schoenecker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning,
Welcome.
Commissioners. Again, my name is Ted Schoenecker. I'm the Ramsey County Public Works Director. It's good to be with you here this morning. As the chair mentioned, there are actually three components to this budget presentation that I'll cover today. These include Public Works, our centralized fleet, and the Regional Railroad Authority. The chair already identified the pages that our budget is on, so you can refer to that. There is just one quick item that we want to identify as a correction in the book. If you look at page 364 of the budget book, it shows that our 2020 pavement quality index is 62.1. That's out of a score of 100. However, if you go to the page titled Snapshot of Community Indicators by Countywide Goal, which is from the cover, actually 11 pages in, not by page number, but 11 pages. Under accountability, it shows our pavement quality index as 6.21, which is in essence, an ATV road system that we have here or less. So just be somewhat confident and comfortable that 62.1 is our number. The decimal point does matter. So just making sure that that's reflected in the book.
Okay. Well, hopefully that was corrected for the online version or something. I don't know what we can do.
Madam Chair, it's being worked on for the online version.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of continuing here, I would like to recognize Tony Lutkin, Chris Longhenry, and George Hargrove for all their hard work in the development of the Public Works budgets. Their knowledge, expertise, and patience are exceptional. Also, Deputy County Manager Joanna Berg has been a rock solid leader in helping guide and coach the EGCI team through this budget process, while also managing all the other responsibilities that came her way as a part of the COVID-19 pandemic response. She's been exceptional to work with and for as a part of this process. As you heard a few of the comments earlier, Public Works interacts with almost every resident in Ramsey County almost every single day. Whether they want to or not, they're using something of ours from a transportation system. Like I said, you're likely aware of that because you're getting the same phone calls that we're getting and emails and sharing them with us. So our residents have a lot of interaction with us with the work that we do. The proposed 2022-2023 Public Works budget reflects the county's continued vision, mission, and goals, and the residents' first approach to doing business. This budget also reflects the county's strategic initiatives around racial equity, community engagement, and contracting and workforce inclusion. However, our 22-23 budgets are a reduction from our adopted 2020 budget and amended 2021 budget. So there's some pain that comes along with this budget here, and you've seen this, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. As we start to talk about the Public Works budget and kind of what's under those components, the Public Works capital and operating budgets are closely tied together. An impact to one likely has an impact to the other. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw a large decrease in our county state aid highway funds that helped fund both our capital and operating budgets for county road transportation system. And just sidetracking just a little bit, Commissioner Dwyer, you asked the question about why that was reduced. It was primarily the gas tax reduction due to having a 40% drop in vehicles on roads as the pandemic progressed through this. So that's gonna take us years to recover from that number. So this meant that we had fewer dollars to complete much needed transportation projects. Also, to manage the reduction in CASAF funds for our operating budgets, we reallocated wheelage tax funds from the capital budgets to the operating budget so we could continue to provide the appropriate maintenance response and levels of service on our county roads. Again, that's getting back to that residents first approach. We felt that it was important, and you felt that it was important for us and our maintenance responsibilities to continue to put those residents first and our ability to respond and react to maintenance issues and concerns on the road. As a result of both the reduction in CASAF funds and reallocation of wheelage tax funds, we reduced the size of our capital program in 2021 and moved projects out into future years. The CASAF funding isn't expected to be back to the 2020 levels for the next couple of years. MnDOT is currently working on its November forecast. You may see some updates coming out of the AMC meeting. I believe it's next week. They'll be at the Transportation Investment Policy Committee. MnDOT will be providing some updates there. We have not seen those numbers yet, so we don't know what those look like. You may get a firsthand view before we do. This can have a ripple effect on our overall operations. When less funding is put towards capital projects at the right time, more funding is needed on the back end to maintain it. This may also mean that projects are reduced in scope. We may take a reconstruction project and bring it down to, we only have enough money to do a pavement preservation project. I just want to say the sky is not falling. There's no immediate cliff that we're going to fall off of. This is not something that tends to show up immediately, but something that could become an issue over time as we try and recover from the reductions that we have from last year to this year and into a couple future years. Talk about centralized fleets. Controller Hargrove mentioned a few of these things. Fleet was centralized under Public Works in 2016. We've learned a lot in the past 6 years and are learning even more as we just went live with an enterprise asset management system for fleet in July. In talking with our vendor that's helping us with this work, he said that this was one of the fastest deployments that he has seen for a product to go live. This was a huge lift for our fleet division, and special recognition goes out to Brian Cahill, Jordan Kalesia, Pat McCoy, and the whole fleet team. The demands on fleet are extremely high as departments change their operations and request more vehicles or equipment. As vehicles, equipment become outdated and need to be replaced, as the county looks to meet its energy goals through the electrification of its vehicles and equipment. Fleet has been able to manage these demands by addressing some of those low-hanging fruits. We've talked previously about it with you. You know, instead of buying 2 vehicles that do 2 separate things, they're buying multi-use vehicles, and then they're starting to share them across departments. So 2 departments don't both have a backhoe. They both don't need them at the same time, so we're consolidating that. However, our analysis shows that the fleet is under-resourced in the number of full-time equivalent employees and its capital funding to manage the growing needs of the county efficiently, effectively, and responsibly. Talk a little bit about the Regional Railroad Authority. The Regional Railroad Authority continues to focus on the development of the county's transitways. The yearly transit portfolio status and financial projections workshop that we have with the county board has shown that all of the funding that the county has dedicated towards the development and operations of these transitways is needed through 2045, with debt being paid off in 2055. The financing of these transitways is highly sensitive. Any proposed changes that require the county to contribute more to the development and operations of these transitways could have an impact on the scope of the transitway or the timeline for it starting to operate. And I'm just, again, going off my script here a little bit. It may not feel that way because it may feel like there's tens of millions of dollars that through the rail authority and through the sales tax that are going to these projects, but that's you as a county board putting your fiscally responsible lens on it and saying, it's not about today, it's about 20 years from now, it's about 30 years from now, and what is the funding resources that we need to position us well, such that when they're operational, they operate at a first-class operation. Going to talk a little bit about contracting and workforce inclusion. Deputy County Manager Berg highlighted the EGCI Purchasing and Contracting Action Team and the work that we are doing. These are efforts that the service team are taking to increase the percentages of people of color and women on our construction jobs and to increase the use of CERT small business enterprise contractors in the work that we do. Workforce has been a phenomenal partner in this work. Public Works has been an integral and active participant in this work, which starts with us talking with our consultants and contractors about expectations on projects that they will do for us, talking about the county's values, what we want to see from them, where we want to see it from. They are partners in the work that we do. We talk with them regularly, and they understand our values and strategic initiatives as it relates to contracting and workforce inclusion. And it's beginning to show in the proposals that we receive and the work that we are doing with them. Public Works has also begun to debundle larger projects and identify other opportunities to utilize more CERT SBE contractors and consultants. One of the recent things that our Workforce Solutions Department has done is they created this CERT Connect program. Monthly or every 2 weeks, they set up a meeting with a CERT vendor, and they invite probably 40 to 50 county staff primarily through the EGCI team, basically as a networking event. The CERT vendor tells us who they are, we tell them who we are, and we look for those opportunities to work with them and just identify maybe some points of contact to reach out in the future. So just, again, really good opportunities to get to know who these different vendors are and for them to get to know who we are.